Assalamualaikum and hi. My name is Nuraina Ayuni binti Muhammad. My matric number is L23B0186. Today, I will be presenting a case study titled The Fourth Stage of the MH370 Crisis. This case highlights how Malaysia Airlines handled one of the most mysterious aviation disasters in history and how their crisis communication evolved through each stage. I will also discuss how Situational Crisis Communication Theory, or SCCT, applies to this case. On March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 disappeared with 239 people on board. This strategy became one of the most complex aviation crises, drawing global media attention. The incident did not only challenge aviation safety, but also put Malaysia Airlines communication strategies under scrutiny. To analyze this, I will use the four stages of the crisis model: pre-crisis, initial, acute, and resolution. I will also refer to the situational crisis communication theory, which helps organizations choose the right strategies depending on the type of crisis they face. Stage 1. Pre-crisis. In the pre-crisis stage, Malaysia Airlines was already in a high-risk business, but sadly, they did not have a strong crisis plan. They didn't train their team, didn't have clear roles, and no one was ready to speak to the media. When the plane went missing, they were not prepared at all. Stage 2. Initial stage. The crisis began when MH370 lost contact with air traffic on March 8. At this point, Malaysia Airlines released slow and confusing updates. Some information changed from one press conference to another. There was no clear leader to speak. The media and families were frustrated. Pressure increased quickly, putting MAS in a difficult position. Stage 3. Acute stage. This was the worst part of the crisis. The news went worldwide. Families were very upset. MAS was heavily criticized. People said MAS was not honest and too slow to respond. According to SCCT, in accidental crises like this one, companies should apply two strategies. The first one is diminish, explain the situation clearly, and rebuild, offering apologies and compensation. MAS did both, but people thought it was too late. Their image was already damaged. Stage 4. Resolution stage. Later, MAS started to improve. In resolution stage, MAS began to communicate more consistently. They gave regular updates, said sorry, gave financial compensation, and helped families with counseling. These actions matched the rebuild strategy in SCCT. However, because the early stage was handled badly, it was hard to fix their reputation completely. In conclusion, the MH370 tragedy clearly shows how a lack of early preparation and slow crisis communication can turn a risk into a long-lasting crisis. Malaysia Airlines faced both internal challenges, like unclear communication roles, and external pressure from the media and public. Although they later tried to recover using SCCT strategies, the early damage was already significant. This case reminds us that in high-risk industries like aviation, having a strong crisis communication plan and acting quickly, clearly, and competently is absolutely essential. That's all from me. Thank you.
Let's look at an overview of the major aviation crises MH370 and MH17, both involving Malaysia Airlines and occurring just moments apart in 2014. First, MH370, March 2014. MH370 disappeared during a flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing with 239 people on board. The communication strategy in the early stages was highly problematic. Conflicting information came from different branches of the Malaysia government and airline, with inconsistencies in the timeline of the plane's last contact and the list of passengers. According to Huxley 2014, these inconsistencies significantly damaged the credibility of official sources. Delayed responses and poor coordination between agencies also caused confusion and frustration among families and the media. The same by Zhang and Benoit 2021 emphasized that the lack of a unified message worsened public perception. This lack of transparency ultimately fueled global speculation, ranging from mechanical failure to hijacking or military involvement, highlighting how a vacuum of information can invite misinformation. Now, we will look at MH17, July 2014. Just a few months later, MH17 was shot down over eastern Ukraine, killing all 298 passengers and crew. This crisis played out in a highly politicized environment. Russia quickly denied involvement, instead blaming Ukrainian forces and questioning the validity of the international investigation. Benoit 2015 said that notes that Russia's denial fits a classic image repair strategy, but lack of credibility in the face of mounting forensic evidence. In contrast, the Joint Investigation Team or JIT, which included officials from the Netherlands, Australia, Malaysia, and others, led a transparent, evidence-based inquiry. Coombs and Holliday 2012 highlight JIT's communication as a model of strategic transparent during a complex international crisis. So, this is the common challenges in both crises. 1. High public and media attention with 24/7 news cycles and intense global scrutiny. Complex international stakeholder networks, including victims from multiple countries, international aviation bodies, and geopolitical actors. A high degree of political sensitivity and pressure for accountability, especially as both crises had international implications. These common factors made risk and crisis communication extremely challenging, requiring strategies that address emotional, political, and logistical dimensions all at once. See how two major aviation disasters, Malaysian Airlines flight MH370 and MH17, were handled in terms of crisis communication and what lessons we can draw from them. The incident: MH370 mysteriously disappeared in March 2014 while en route from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing, whilst MH17 just months later was tragically shot down over eastern Ukraine in a conflict zone. Second, main communications authorities. For MH370, the main communicators were Malaysia Airlines and the Malaysian government. In the case of MH17, a joint investigation team (JIT), including countries like the Netherlands, Malaysia, and Australia, led the communication. Russia also made a conflicting statements. Third, message clarity. MH370's updates were inconsistent, often confusing, with unclear timelines and changing information. In contrast, MH70's communication, especially from the JIT, was clear, structured, and backed by evidence. However, Russia's narrative contradicted these findings. For use of communication channels, the MH370 response showed poor media engagement and ineffective use of social media. For MH17, the JIT used press conference online platforms and multilingual reports effectively, whereas Russia relied heavily on state-controlled media. Fifth, stakeholder engagement. With MH370, these families, especially Chinese relatives, felt left out, receiving minimal support and updates. MH17's response included strong international cooperation and coordination among multiple governments, though Russia's stakeholder engagement remained low. And last, outcome. The handling of MH370 led to public distrust and widespread speculation as people searched for answers. On the other hand, the JIT's transparent approach in MH17 built credibility while Russia's contradictory stance weakened its international trust. These cases highlight the critical role of clear, coordinated, and transparent communication in a crisis. Where MH370 faltered, MH17's Joint Investigation Team set an example in how international teams can respond with unity and clarity even under political and emotional pressure. The lessons learned and how various communication strategies succeeded or failed during the MH370 and MH17 crisis. So, what worked? MH17 GIT response. One of the most effective aspects of the MH17 crisis management was the response led by the Joint Investigation Team JIT. They use clear and transparent communication regularly, updating the public with verified evidence-based findings. Such clarity is essential for maintaining public trust during high-risk situations. Their approach also involved in coordinated international stakeholder response, with investigators from the Netherlands, Malaysia, Australia, and others working together, which demonstrated unity and accountability. Importantly, their messaging was ethical, timely, and rooted in factual evidence, aligning well with the principles of the excellence theory, which emphasizes ethical communication, two-way management, and public-centered messaging, Grunic 1992. This helped establish JIT as a credible authority even in a politically charged context. So, what failed in MH370 and Russia's MH17 response? On the other hand, the MH370 response and Russia's approach to MH17 revealed key communication failures. In both cases, there was conflicting or delayed information, leading to confusion and speculation. As noted, the MH370 case showed how inconsistent messaging can severely erode institutional trust. The response also included denial without accountability. Russia denied responsibility in MH17, and Malaysian authorities failed to provide a clear narrative for MH370. This approach aligns with image repair theory or IRT, which explains denial as a tactic but does not offer practical guidance for rebuilding long-term credibility. Finally, there was a noticeable lack of cultural sensitivity and transparency, particularly with MH370, where Chinese families felt neglected and unheard. This undermined both empathy and legitimacy. Theory takeaways. From a theoretical standpoint, several key insights emerge. First, image repair theory (IRT) helps explain why actors like Russia or Malaysia choose denial or shift shifting blame, but the theory falls short in offering actionable repair strategies for sustained reputation management. Second, situational crisis communication theory (SCCT), on the other hand, proves more effective in building trust, especially when the responsible party accepts accountability and communicates proactively. Decision and diffusion theories, along with the excellence theory, emphasize the importance of transparent communication, shared values, and ethical stakeholder engagement. These work well in the JIT's approach. However, we must also acknowledge what political contexts can override best communication practices. In both crises, political considerations often took precedence over public-centered messaging, limiting the effectiveness of even well-established strategies.
Hi and hello, my name is Siti Nur Atika Mati Mohammed. My Kamantis number is LBE20403. That looks at the evolution of the scale and scope of the damage caused by the MH317 and MH17 crisis. Firstly, the emotional impact was devastating, especially for the family of MH317 victims. Article 1 by Othman and Yusuf 2020 explained how the prolonged uncertainty led to deep psychological distress. Many families experienced unresolved grief due to the lack of closure, while Malaysia Airlines did offer emotional support. Many feel that the delay in clear communication made the situation worse. Economy. The crisis had a major impact on Malaysia Airlines. As Article 1 highlighted, there was a sharp drop in passenger trust, leading to the lower ticket sales, financial loss, and even staff layoff. The crisis did not affect the airline operation but also damaged Malaysia's national image and reputation in the aviation industry. On the global stage, the consequences were also several. MH317 triggered one of the largest multinational search efforts in aviation history. MH17, according to Article 2 by Zakaria 2021, sparked international political tension, especially between Malaysia and Russia, after evidence showed it was shot down by a missile. This incident affected global confidence in Malaysia's ability to manage aviation safety and crisis communication. Communication failure was a key weakness in both cases. Article 2 clearly pointed out that Malaysia Airlines was slow to provide timely updates, which allowed misinformation to spread rapidly on social media. This created confusion and fear and made it difficult for the airline to control the narrative. Poor media engagement also weakened public trust. In terms of resolution effort, Malaysia Airlines did take action. As noted in Article 1, they introduced new safety procedures, provide crisis communication training, and launch public relations campaign to restore their image. They also maintained engagement with the family of the victim to provide continued support. There was positive step toward recovery. To conclude, the response by Malaysia Airlines shows some effectiveness in the short term, especially in offering emotion and logistic support. However, it's highlighted in both articles. The article is still struggle to fully recover public trust and financial strength. This shows that a successful crisis resolution requires long-term commitment, transparent communication, and consistent engagement with all stakeholders.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is Zaiti Nuralisha binti Kamizi, metric number L23B0360, and today I'm going to present my part in the presentation of article review, which are long-term impacts and opinion and implications. There are several long-term impacts of the tragedy of MH370 and MH17. First, Malaysia Airlines as an organization faced severe financial strain and restructuring. The disappearance of MH370 led to billions of losses and a decrease in ticket sales, especially from China, with bookings dropping by 60% in March 2014. For stakeholders, even though MAS has provided financial aid to the families, of victims, there was dissatisfaction about the odds of compensation that has been given. Also, there were several changes in the aviation industry, especially changes in the system. They decided to extend the recorder to be able to record at least 25 hours, and the batteries are long-lasting from 30 to 90 days. In my opinion, the MH370 and MH17 crisis could have been done better through more proactive risk management, clear crisis communication protocols, and transparent public relations. First, the aviation industry can take proactive risk monitoring and preparedness. They could have updated the aircraft tracking systems because during the MH370 disappearance, the real-time global tracking over the whole ocean was limited. Malaysia Airlines have to rely on outdated positional updates. The government should have implemented the satellite-based automatic tracking earlier. Another aspect is the way the aviation industry handles the crisis communication execution. Since MH370 involved two countries, Malaysia and China, the people in charge of public relations should sense the cultural sensitivity and stakeholder management. Many families, especially from China, feel abandoned or poorly informed. Since not all countries share the same way of communication, this matter has worsened the emotional distress and has created international tension. These two crises serve as an important example of how severely a breakdown in communication can worsen the disaster. The organizational response could have been better, even though the lack of communication might not have been avoidable. Going forward, the crisis communication framework of all major airlines industry and government agencies should reflect this crisis.